In one of the live sessions that I had this week, the Mindful Live sessions that are available, you could jump onto those sessions pretty much every weeknight around 9:15 or 9:30, thereabouts, that kind of time. We were having the kind of discussions we regularly have there on some of the more sensitive and interesting topics around the public discussion. And someone in the discussion was saying that, in their opinion, or in my view, some one of those kind of phrases that you suggest, this is something that I hold personally, not something necessarily I'm sure is for everyone. And someone in the comments responded to that as, why is it that so many people so regularly in discussing things say things like that? In my opinion, in my view, the way I see it, why do so many people think that their opinion has a matter or should matter in someone else's life? That's what someone responded to in the comments. And I could understand that kind of sentiment. I understand that kind of thinking where, why should someone else's opinion have any say in my life? Why should it matter with anything in my life? The thing is, it does, because of the nature of the world we live in. We don't live in a totally individualistic world. We live in communities, in civilizations, in societies. And in order to have rules and ideas and morality that encompasses the entirety of our society, we need to kind of pay attention to other people's morality. That's how we decide things. You see, you could think about this as, how do we decide morality? Morality being that decision, that identifying, that differentiating between right and wrong, between good and bad. How do we get that definition? Now, I would say there are two main ways we get the definition. Primarily, probably, for the length of history of humanity, primarily it would have been through religious lens, through a God consciousness. You're thinking about an advanced being up there, someone higher than us, that is looking down on us and has dictated to us what and how we should live this life. The rules about and guidelines about how to go through this life we're living. That's one view, and usually that's something written in a book, in some kind of theology that doesn't usually change. That's one. Or we decided, by the way we do in modern times, basically on consensus. What do most people think is right? If most people think it's right, then it gets passed in a constitutional kind of way in these democratic societies, and then pretty much majority opinion becomes morality. But either way, that's kind of not decided by yourself. If you're living in a society, in a civilization, in a group with people, there's no way you decide general morality on your own. It's always something decided by the group. And this sent me on, not sent me, but it reminded me of some things that I was reading recently, where we have some assumptions about morality and what we think is good and right and proper in the modern system. But some of those assumptions are based on the societies that we grew up in. Everyone does not hold your view. There are some views you might think are views on morality, and this is right, this is wrong, and you think that's something that's universal. And when you actually go and look at the opinions of people around the world, you recognize, no, those views are not universal. And that's precisely what we are going to do today. We are going to go through some stories looking at some views on certain aspects of what we may consider morality, particularly in the Western world, and how it is seen globally. Is it something that you could see, okay, it's clear this is something that is moral, there's no way anyone can say anything about this? Or is it something that really is based on other people's opinion, and it really is a matter of dictating the group opinion over the entirety of the group? We're going to get into that. And primarily, the primary lens we're looking at this through is the lens of LGBTQIA2 plus rights and the views that people have based on that. And this has come into some more focus recently, especially with the Qatar World Cup. I was going to say Olympics, but I think I heard they want to host the 2028 whenever the next Olympics is, I believe, they are interested in hosting that. So Qatar is out there wanting to be on the world stage at the forefront. But part of the problem with that is the LGBTQIA2 plus community is not really welcomed in Qatar's standard of morality. Support for the LGBT community is not allowed in Qatar. That's something that came up in the recent Football World Cup. And people recognize that when you go there, you can't actually express that kind of support. Something that you may consider moral in the Western world, they consider it immoral there. And when you actually take a look at this around the world, you get a more honest picture of it. So before we dive into the statistics and the news and the stories of the day, make sure you hit the like button. If you like this kind of content, you want more of this kind of content to keep coming, hit that like button. Tell me what you think. That's what the comment section is for. Allow me to know exactly what you think about this content, about this video, about the topic. Drop a comment. If you are not yet subscribed, this is a good time to do that. Subscribe to the channel and let's get into this. So, a study done from UCLA here on social acceptance of LGBTI people in 175 countries and locations from 1981 to 2000. And the primary thing I'm looking at in this is the first set of data points here. 56 countries have experienced an increase in acceptance since 1981. That's interesting. However, if you go to the next data point, 62 countries experienced no change in acceptance. So, yes, 50, how much is it? 56 had some increase in the acceptance of LGBTQI people, while a larger number, 62, had no change. This view that many in the West, if we're being honest, many in the West hold this kind of as the primary, the moral view on top of most. And I think that might be because of how they see freedom. Freedom is you are free to do as you will with your body, and no one should be able to tell you otherwise. And okay, I understand what you're saying in terms of that freedom, but we must understand that morality is still decided by the group, even in these countries. Even in these countries, morality is still decided by the group. So, 57 countries saw a decrease in acceptance. So, more countries saw a decrease in acceptance of homosexual people than countries saw an increase in acceptance. But many of us living on this side of the Western world with the Western media, you may think that is not so. You may think that this is something very common throughout the world. This is something understood to be the right thing everywhere else in the world, but not really. That's not the way many people see it. And it's not the way that many people are seeing it. You know, a lot of people are confident that with the progressive mindset, you know, if humans just continue going in the direction we're going at, we will always be changing towards the good, you know, we'll always be making positive progress. But I think there's something such as negative progress too. Well, it wouldn't be negative progress, it will be regress. You're regressing. So yeah, it's not surely one direction it is all headed in, and we could see statistically that is true too. And I think some of this may actually have some pushback involved because, as I was saying, morality is decided by group opinion for the most part in the Western world. And what we have been seeing is a push to change the group opinion, a push to form the group opinion around what many people think is the proper standard of morality. And I think we are seeing some pushback on this. That may be why we are seeing a decrease in acceptance in some countries, because some people are saying this is not the moral standard that I have. And the more that the group is trying to change the group morality and change the group opinion, some people start to push back more. Interesting when we're looking at that topic is one Mr. Sizzla. Sizzla holding firm. Singer won't back down on anti-gay rhetoric. Rastaman don't apologize to no... The line from reggae act Sizzla Kalonji Miguel Collins sent the massive crowd into uproar at the Kings of the Earth concert held on Saturday night at the Queen's Park Savannah, Port of Spain. Now, this article, bear in mind, is from the ending of November. That would give some bearing as to when this Saturday night would have been. Sizzla didn't finish the lyrics to his controversial 2005 release, Nah Apologize, the recording of which identifies Batty Boy homosexuals as the group he refuses an apology. The song, which remains banned in some territories, was the St. Mary's Jamaica natives' response to calls from international LGBTQ groups for reggae and dancehall acts to apologize for their anti-gay lyrics. Fire for that, Sizzla told his activated audience. Backstage, he doubled down on that sentiment, telling the Express homosexuality is contrary to Caribbean culture and there are more important issues facing the region's people. We got more important things to do than to be supporting homosexualism. This is quoting from Mr. Sizzla Kalonji. This isn't me. Which is something contrary to our culture. It's even in the Bible. You printed this Bible and gave it to us in the schools, and it's all in the hotels. We read this Bible and it says it's homosexuality, not accepted by the Most High. That is contrary to our culture. You can't give us something that will not let us meditate right. You can't force something on us that we as indigenous people do not accept. So as it is, thou shalt not kill. You shall not have no gay people in our nation. It's not going to be tolerated, and that's final. Yeah. He was pretty adamant and open about what he was saying in there, not mincing words on it. And here's the thing. Is he right? Is LGBTQ acceptance contrary to the common culture of the Caribbean? And if it is contrary to the culture of the indigenous people, should we be changing that culture? You see, there's an interesting thing when you look at the general acceptance of homosexuality throughout the world. Global divide on homosexuality. Greater acceptance in more secular and affluent countries. So what you would recognize is wealthier countries accept homosexuality more readily. You look at a map of countries where gay marriage is legal, and it's basically a map of what you may consider first world countries. Throughout the West, the Canada, United States, most of Europe, a pretty significant chunk of South America, Australia, South Africa, and then the rest of the world is kind of no thanks. So this is an opinion because that's what we basically already identify, that morality, moral statements are group opinions for the most part. You may say that it's right that everyone should have the ability to do what they want with their own body, to love who they see fit. You may see that as the right thing to do, but what actually makes that right for someone else? If the majority of another culture is saying this is not what we accept, how do you make that what they accept? Human rights are basically human opinions. Human rights, the Declaration of Human Rights that was made by the UN in 1948, that was written by other humans. It's human opinion. You go back to what some people may see as some of the origins of human rights, the Magna Carta by King John, was it, in the early AD time. That was written by humans in England, based on human opinion. Again, earlier than that, I think one of the first reports they have about human rights was Cyrus the Great, Persian king way back, Persian emperor way back. Again, written based on human opinion. So, which human opinion do you see taking ascendancy here? If you're talking about wealthier Europeanized countries, would you say that the wealthier, richer European countries have the right to impart their opinions on morality onto other cultures? Because that's the way this is going to come across. That's what Mr. Sizzla Kalonji was saying there, that this is contrary to Caribbean culture. And if you look at the general majority opinion in Caribbean culture, he may actually be right. And the thing is, it's not only Caribbean culture. It's not just Caribbean. It's not secluded to a small part in the world. This might actually be the majority opinion of the majority of human beings on the planet Earth. If you look at China and India, which already by themselves take up about quarter of the Earth's population, if you look at them, they are not generally favorable to LGBTQ rights. Let's look at a story over from in Japan. Tokyo court upholds Japan's same-sex marriage ban as LGBTQ advocates highlight silver lining in ruling. The Tokyo District Court ruled on Wednesday that Japan's ban on same-sex marriage is in line with the Constitution. That's Japan. Japan is seen as a pretty progressive country, but they have a ban on same-sex marriages too. Japan. Is it that they are wrong? Their opinion on human morality is wrong. And they should adopt the European opinion on human morality. Is that the case? Is that the case that can be plausibly laid out? Or is it just a matter of convincing people? There's no way for us to determine here which one is the for sure right or wrong way. So here's what we're going to do. Let's all just discuss these issues and see if we could convince each other one way or the other. Tell me, what do you think? And it's not just Japan. Russian parliament passes law banning LGBTQ propaganda among adults. Moscow. Russia's parliament approved on Thursday a bill that widens a prohibition of LGBTQ propaganda and restricts the demonstration of LGBT behavior, making any expression of an LGBT lifestyle almost impossible. Under the law, which still needs approval of the upper house of parliament and President Vladimir Putin, any action or information that is considered an attempt to promote homosexuality, whether in public, online, or in films, books, or advertising, could incur a heavy fine. Previously, the law had outlawed only promotion of LGBT lifestyles aimed at children. The new bill also bans the demonstration of LGBT behavior to children. That's Russia, the largest country by landmass in the world. They're banning LGBT propaganda from their country. No one can say words that encourage LGBT behavior. And I understand that in the present context, Russia may be seen as persona non grata. Russia is the evil bad guy, but this is Russians. These are millions of people. You don't just get them to change their view by saying they are the bad guys. And as we are pointing out here, it's not only a view held by the Russians. So how do we decide that morality? Which line of morality do we go down? Do we follow the Russians? Do we follow the Japanese? Do we follow our common culture that has come with us through history? Do we follow, as Mr. Sizzla Kalonji pointed out there, do we follow the Bible, which has an unchangeable moral standard? And that's part of it too. That's part of it too. You see, people who have a more religious view of morality, people who see morality as not just being human opinion, but being the view of an entity outside of humanity, God, that's something unchanging. And for a progressive thought, those two don't go together. To have a progressive thinking, morality, what's right or wrong, the proper thing to do has to be able to move and change with time. As we learn new things, then we have to be able to update and upgrade our moral standards, while someone with a religious view, a God view, that God consciousness view of the world, they would have it that it's unchanging. The moral standards of everything, of this reality, of the reality on which we exist, is unchanging, regardless of any new knowledge that may come to humankind. God knows all, and the moral standards that he has determined from the beginning cannot be changed. That's the two views we have there, and those two views cannot go together. One has to win and the other has to lose. In Indonesia, we're seeing even more. It's seeming like that unchanging moral code might be the one winning. Indonesia bans sex outside marriage in new criminal code. They went a step beyond. It's not just the LGBTQ, they're dealing with the entirety of the whole sexual relations. New criminal code ushers in controversial changes. Sex outside marriage insulting the president banned. New laws may hamper tourism investment, critics see. Indonesia's parliament on Tuesday banned sex outside marriage with a punishment of up to 1 year in jail. Despite worries the laws may scare away tourists from its shores and harm investment, because the laws extend to tourists on their shores too. Lawmakers approved a new criminal code which will apply to Indonesians and foreigners alike and also prohibit cohabitation between unmarried couples. It will also ban insulting the president or state institutions. So you can't even live with the person if you are not married to them. That's the level that Indonesia is going to there. And is this something wrong? Is that moral level that Indonesia has decided for their country, is it wrong? Is it that each country should be able to decide their own moral standards based on the opinions of the people who inhabit that country? Or is it that there is an overarching moral code that should extend to all humankind? Is acceptance of the LGBT community something that should be in the universal moral code? And then how do we decide that? And then how do we get other people to be convinced of that too? Tell me what you think. That's all I have for now. Jump in the comments and tell me your opinion on this and how we decide morality. Is it that other people's opinion should have a say on us? Is it that no one's opinion should have a say on us and we should be free to do as we please? Or is it that the only opinion that should matter is God? Drop a comment, tell me what you think. That's all I have for now. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained, and I will see you in the next video.